Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lead From Within podcast. My name is Nina Urman, and I'm so excited because today I have Marcia, a wikipy, who is a dear friend, who is my roommate, and whose superpower it is, or one of the superpowers you have, is to get to the essence of what people are here to do and to express themselves and kind of clarify for themselves and articulate what value they bring into the world. Welcome, Marcia.
Thank you, Nina. And you know what? It is a privilege to be with you. We know each other very well, and I've been inspired by how you have really architected an incredible life for yourself, personally and professionally. And I'm very curious to just find out a little bit more how you got here. What were some of the circumstances in your life that brought you to where you are wanting to lead high achieving individuals, but people really from all walks of life, to how they can propel themselves forward in the success that they're wishing to achieve in their lives?
Thank you, Marcia, for the question. I think one of the most important missions that I have is to be an example of what's possible, to be an example, kind of walk the way and, lead from within with my own life. And thank you for bringing this up, because my life has been, like for all of us, a roller coaster of really beautiful circumstances and not so beautiful circumstances. And what I share today more than anything is that our circumstances are actually neutral or factual. This is what happens. This is what is on our path. And many of these things we don't seem to choose because the circumstances, right? They're kind of external on the outside. But what we do have dominion over, what we do have kind of power over, is how we perceive things and what we make those circumstances mean. So I can tell you very different stories of my life, and all of them will be true. So as many might know, I'm half Russian, half German. I was born in Siberia, and I moved to Germany at the age of 9. And I could share the story of, the unique child brought up in Siberia that was always living with this dream of wanting to Germany and kind of wanting to escape the reality and longing for something different, for something more, better, different. And, when I was 9 years old and we moved, it was kind of like this huge disillusion, because I think there was a lot of expectations for me, what this new life will bring. And back then I didn't know how to manage my brain and what I know today, but it was all part of the journey. And I was given the tennis racket at the age of 9, saying you're going to become a professional tennis player. And what I made it mean at the time was that I needed to be best, I needed to perform, I needed to win all the tournaments. And even if it wasn't meant this way, I am an only child, and my parents always gave me a lot of appreciation and attention and love. I took it as, this is the thing I got to achieve. And it put a lot of pressure.
Right. And I think that's what's so interesting, is because that resonates, I think, with all of us. We all have different circumstances, we all have different challenges, and we all come from a different background. And yet many of us are looking to navigate the past and how it has affected us, and how can we use those challenges, the good and the bad,
right,
to be successful, how we want to define that for ourselves in our present life, and how can we affect our future. So if we take it from sort of the umbrella, the big picture, what is it that you can give us? Is it tools? What is this, and how can and then how is it applied into our lives?
Right. So I think the biggest tool, if you say, but it's more about the state of being or state of mind and heart, is to always know that you're creating life. You are the creator, meaning how you perceive things is how you ultimately manifest them. How you decide to look at the story, how you decide to write the story, how you decide to tweak it for yourself is going to ultimately define your experience of it, meaning your emotional experience of it, and also it's going to manifest in your actions, in the results that you create for yourself. So you are the creator. You have the power to perceive whatever it is to want and take the wisdom, and then you're going to be also the one experiencing it. So it's almost like creator and creation at the same time. And practically speaking, for me, it has been a lot about writing things down and rewriting my story in a way that serves me, in a way that empowers me, and say, listen, what is that hero journey?
Right.
Because we all go through ups and downs, but what is the hero journey that I will define for myself is going to make me come closer to my future self? So we always have this past, present, future, but in a way, like if I asked you, who are you? Most of us would go into our past.
Yes.
Most of us would define ourselves by our past. But notice that our mind could go all the ways. We can also say, I'm this future self and I am that now. Because there's no real limit. It's like, our past is almost like a limiting story like we can create. And we can use it to our advantage to move forward, or we can use it to our detriment and become a victim. And
yes, that was the word that was sort of ringing in my head, was rather than behaving like a victim, we can instead choose our feelings and our actions.
Right.
And so talk to me a little bit more about that. When you sit down with someone,
Right.
what are some of the things that you are looking to pull in order to work with someone?
Yes. So it's kind of all happening in the moment. And first of all, it's an energetic exchange with a person, but I do have a specific framework in mind I work with. And first of all, I just want to understand what's happening. Like, what are the circumstances, literally, what are the facts? And we want to separate the fact from the story. Just, what has happened? What does this person say? What were the factual, things that everybody can agree upon, or can it be proven in a court of law? That factual. And then we'll say, well, what do you make it mean? What is the story that's creating in your head? And people always say, but this is the truth. And I'll say, well, it's the truth for you. Let's figure it out. Basically, I almost define myself as somebody who goes into somebody's minds and will just, take those thoughts out, take those paragraphs of thoughts that are all intertangled out, and we'll separate them. We'll separate ourselves. We'll become the observer of our story, of our thoughts, and we'll say, is this really true? And if it is, does it serve you to think that way? And people always have this kind of aha moment of, oh wait, like choice. Yes. Am I choosing to believe that? Why am I choosing to think that? And most of the time it's not as quick, right? It's not like, very rarely people go like, oh, why am I choosing to believe that? I'm just going to choose my other thought and that's going to serve me. But obviously, because neuroplasticity is a thing, like we have been thinking a certain way for years. And it's really hard to do brain, it's almost like a tractor has been always going one way, and then you're going to deviate it and say, no, we're going to go this way. It's going to take a lot of time and energy and practice. But once you know how to do it, you can do it literally anything, any thought, any belief.
So is it in a way that you're reprogramming how you are reacting?
Yeah.
To the circumstances in your life?
Yes, you're reframing the script, and it's kind of, there's like these two different states. There's the default, and this is where your brain goes automatically, and we all know this when we are triggered, right? Like when it feels like it's almost like bigger than this. You just have an emotional response, a thought response, everything's happening in the moment, and you're like sometimes at the end of the day, you stop and you're like, how did I react this way? Like, what has happened? And most of the time, obviously in Nipson College, you could see it comes from kind of some kind of childhood trauma or something that we were taught in the beginning, and you needed to protect yourself, and you made it mean that, whenever, you were hurt, you needed something sweet to make you feel better. And then the behavioral pattern is, every time I feel frustrated or lonely or hurt, I'll grab for the chocolate. Like, I'm just going to give one example that is like, and then you're like, why am I always doing this when I'm hurt? What is that story that is not healed yet? And so we kind of go through this and we create a lot of awareness. The first step to transformation always is awareness. I got to become aware of what am I thinking, what am I perceiving, how am I creating this reality, to then step outside of yourself and see, okay, does this thought serve me? Or do I choose to believe that? And some people will say, no, I still want to choose to believe that. That's your choice, but there is always the choice. And that's what I want to bring people back to.
Okay. So tell me a little bit more about the steps that you take people through.
So I want to say, we start with the circumstance, we separate the fact from story, and then we go into the emotion that you're experiencing, because emotions are important for two reasons. The first being that anything that you want, ultimately, we all want a feeling. When you ask people, but anyway, drill it to the core, you say, but why do you want this relationship? Why do you want this house? Why do you want the car? Why do you want the trip? It always comes down, I want to experience. I want to feel something. I want to feel different. I want to feel more satisfied, happier, fulfilled. And it's always an emotion. We always want to feel better, more than, the success and the basically feeling, being sexy, rich, like all the external stuff, right? We want to have the internal feeling. This is the first reason. The second reason why feelings are important is because feelings are the reason why we do everything and anything or not doing. So they also drive all of our actions. So the next step in the model is kind of identifying, what is this energetic fuel? What are the emotions that you're experiencing when you're thinking a certain way, the story that you're telling yourself? And then what are the actions? So feelings are basically emotions, are energy and motions that are running through your body. And depending on how you're thinking, your consciousness, what gets into your consciousness, you're going to have an emotional response.
Right.
And that emotion is going to trigger an action. It's going to drive an action or inaction, right? If I feel overwhelmed, usually the action is inaction. I'm not going to do anything where I'm going to procrastinate or I'm going to be analyzing and paralyzing. Versus if I wanted to, if I feel empowered, determined, disciplined, I'm going to take very different actions. We can kind of see this in everyday life, but I want you to become hyper aware of what is that energetic fuel that is driving me right now.
Right. And so is it okay to have negative and positive feelings at the same time? Or are we wanting just to have good feelings?
Yes. So very good question, because, as you might think, every time I ask people, what do you want to experience? How do you want to feel? They'll say, I just want to feel happy, peaceful, and fulfilled. That's the immediate response. And this is what we tend to
because
believe.
It's uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable to sit with negative emotions.
Right.
And I think one of the biggest misconceptions actually is that we need to be happy all of the time. Because, you look on Instagram and you look on Facebook and you look at all these things and you only see the positive. And you're like, wait, what's wrong? Why I'm not experiencing this light that everybody else has? Because we don't see the duality. Usually everybody presents themselves as they're having the best life. And obviously that's not the full reality. The full reality is that most of the time it's going to be 50-50. It's going to be like, the good, the bad, and the ugly, all of it intertwined.
Right. Because that is life.
That is life. And it's by design. I believe that maybe somewhere in a different realm, it's all bliss, but we wouldn't even know it. It would be like fish in water. You would just, experience it. But we don't have any kind of idea what that feels like.